Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Awakened Empath. My name is Tara, and today I want to share three things that I think that we can do during this time, this downtime that we have, to make the best out of this time so we can um, make the most out of it and not just sit idle and um, wait for things to happen, because that, you know, is stressful in itself, just waiting, especially when every day sometimes there's no change. um, I just want to say that in the beginning, when all this coronavirus stuff started happening, um, I was far removed from it when it was just happening in China. Um, I didn't feel the energy of it, but as it got here more to the States and more all over the country, and the collective energy just became more and more engulfed in it. Um, I definitely felt the heaviness. I felt the sadness. I felt the panic, the stress. Um, when my place of business and the business of several of my friends that I know here in California was closed. I'm in the restaurant business. Um, you know, that really hit hard, and I went through a period of mourning. I literally woke up and cried like every day. And, part of it was because I was concerned about my finances and my well being, as far as being able to maintain my lifestyle and the uncertainty of everything. But as the week went on, I realized it wasn't just for myself. This was massive stress, anxiety, and sadness that the collective energy was feeling, and I was definitely tuning into that. And so, as empaths, I just want to offer support and say that, you know, when you feel these overwhelming emotions, it's not only your feelings, and the overwhelming sadness or fear that you might feel sometimes comes from collective energy. And empaths, we feel that collective energy um, more deeply than most, I would say. So I have three suggestions here for you to maximize this time and to use it to your benefit, to help yourself grow and help yourself deal more positively with this whole circumstance that we've all been placed in. And, the universe has a plan. And after that week that I spent crying, I woke up one day and I said, okay, enough mourning. The universe has a plan. Yes, this is a time of uncertainty, but it's also a time of possibility. And even though things are at a standstill right now, we can put things into practice right now that will help us when the world gets going again. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was to embrace the slowdown. Basically, for me as an empath, I feel the days of the week, the hours of the day, I feel the collective energy of that every day. I feel pressure to maintain a timely schedule, and I'm normally, time is not an issue to me as far as for my own self. I don't adhere to time on a strict schedule or anything. I'm very kind of la-di-da, let's not rush. The last thing I want to do is rush. If we get there a little bit late, no worries. But and that's just my nature. But I normally do feel rushed. I feel like I never have enough time. I feel like I can never just relax and do something, because there's so many other things to be done. And really, that's not true for my own life, but I feel that collective energy. So I want to say, embrace this time of the slowdown and really dig into it and feel. If you're feeling less stress, if you're feeling less intense energy from around that you absorb from everyone, I guess sometimes I would have a fear of missing out on things too, FOMO. That I would be doing some inner work, and I would be missing out on something fun that other people were doing and things like that. But right now, there's none of that. There is nothing really fun that anybody's doing. There's nothing that anybody's doing but staying home and occupying themselves. And, a few people are getting out here and doing exercise and stuff like that, which is great too. Even I've started doing some stair work and stuff like that because I can't be inside the whole day. And I work outside normally, and I work physically for a living, so that's not normal for me to just be staying home. But the first thing I suggest is just to slow down and embrace this time, and to dig into things that you really like at this time, and find your joys, and see if you can expand on those to make it so that you're doing your joys more often. The second thing I wanted to say is go within, and by that I mean by reflecting on how happy you really are in general in your life at this point. For example, like I said, I work in the restaurant business. I make pretty good money, and I live by the beach, and it's been easy for me to do that for quite a long time. I'm not saying the work is always easy, but it's not something that I have to take home with me at night. And the stress level, it's if you have a bad day with a customer, or a bad day in the kitchen or something like that. It's nothing like being a nurse or a doctor or a psychologist or something where you take your work home with you and you think about it and all this stuff. So, but to me, I have no purpose with it anymore. I am really good at communicating with people and making friends with people, and bringing joy to people's lives through just interacting with them, and I do like that. But I feel like my purpose has moved on, and that I've been living kind of a purposeless life for quite a while now, and I've been very frustrated with myself because I haven't pushed myself to do anything else. Started projects, but keep reverting back to the easy way of doing things. So what I suggest to you at this point right now is go within and see what kind of things are and aren't making you happy. Are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your relationship? Are you happy with yourself? And really feel those emotions. You have time right now, and time to clarify and pursue those emotions. Do some self-care. Give yourself a bubble bath and use that time to figure out what makes you happy and what makes not. Meditate and pose those questions to yourself. Brainstorm and put 5 things out there that maybe you would want to do differently with your life and expand on those. So that was number 2, is to go within. Number 1 was to embrace the slowdown. And number 3 I put is to welcome the change. And what I mean by that is this time that we're being given, I believe, is preceding a great amount of change. The world, I believe, is never going to be the same, the very same the way we thought it was. Things are going to be changing, and they are changing for the better. But change is scary, right? And people resist change immensely. So instead of resisting it, welcoming it will make it a lot easier when the change comes about. Right now, we are being given a period of adjustment. We are being given a period of being able to deal with the thought of everything changing. So don't just Netflix and chill through this. Believe me, I've done my share of that. But don't just waste all this time we've been given, because big change is coming, and being prepared and welcoming it is going to be a lot easier than resisting it. So I put together a chart. I watched a lecture from Mind Valley. It's like a spiritual community that does classes for people, and they talk about spirituality, and they had this chart on there, and so I'll show you really quickly. Oh, sorry, the lighting's not too good here. So in the middle it says living in the culture scape. So this is 4 levels that you could be out at in your spirituality. And if you aren't very spiritual, just a little bit or not at all, you're probably living in the culture scape. And what that means is you're you haven't had your spiritual awakening yet, and you're just kind of living in the density. And if this is you, don't worry about it. We're all at different levels of our spirituality, but there's probably a reason why you're watching this video or coming to this video at this time. So this would be like level 1, and basically you don't rely a lot on your spirituality. You're pretty immersed in the culture of entertainment, sports, and politics, and things that we use to escape out of reality, or just make sense of the world without having a connection to source, divine universe, stuff like that. So if you're on that level, one of the things I would try to do, if you feel inclined to do so, is to poke at your spirituality a little bit. If you're not happy with your job and you want to figure out something else to do, what would you do besides, just brainstorming? A great thing would be to meditate, start with a guided meditation, and pose that question to yourself. Another thing would be to pray. If you do pray, people pray for answers all the time. And you can look out for signs, symbols, and signals to get answers from those prayers. So that's something that just kind of helps spark your spirituality. One other thing I wrote, your dreams. Setting intention at night before you go to bed and asking for answers in your dreams, things will definitely come to you. You can do this for so many things in your life too, not just your job, your relationship questions, your relationship desires, your personal goals, all kinds of stuff, and another thing that you could do, if you haven't tapped into your spirituality totally, is go see an astrologer and get a birth chart astrology reading. It will blow your mind. And you don't have to spend a ton of money. There's a lot of different price ranges out there. They can do it over the online or on the phone. I actually, when I went through my spiritual awakening, found somebody that volunteered, and he just took a donation, and he spent over an hour with me talking to me about my birth chart, and it just gave me some totally amazing information, and really sparked my interest into astrology, which I study on the side. But those are a few things that you can do if you're just starting your spiritual journey. So we have the second level here now, is number 2, which is the awakening level. And that's when you have your awakening. And a lot of times that's spurred on by a traumatic event or series of traumatic events, like it was for me. And, I think right now a lot of people will be experiencing things like this from now on and going forward. A lot of spiritual teachers are saying this is the Great Awakening starting. And yeah, maybe it is. I definitely could see how this event and then events after this are the type of events that will be sparking awakenings. And, I feel grateful that I already had my awakening, because this wasn't such a shock to me. This whole coronavirus thing was not a huge shock to me overall once I wrapped my head around it. But those of you who are just going through an awakening, there's a lot of support out there. And, this is the stage where you're doing all your learning. When I first went through my awakening, I remember I couldn't get enough information about spirituality. Reading spiritual books, the law of attraction, and watching YouTube videos, audiobooks. There's one other thing. Just learning. All I could, sucking up all the information I could about spiritual stuff. And it's so amazing when you start putting pieces together to learn all the things we learn about being essentially immortal spiritual beings that are living here on earth, having a temporary human existence. And once you figure that out, wow, that you're in awe. And if you're in that stage, embrace the awe. Like, take it all in, and you're never going to be able to look back. So savor it. It's a very special time in your life, and dive into it right now. What a great time. If I had all the time in the world during my awakening like this, how amazing. I'm always every day learning, but the beginning is a really wonderful time. So the third stage is recoding yourself. Put that right there. And this is a time where basically you take all the information that you have learned about spirituality, and you start wanting to apply it to yourself and your own life. And in that process, you figure out things that you know you've been doing that are not for your highest good. You figure out bad habits, you figure out negative thought patterns, you figure out toxic relationships, and you start wanting to change those things. And this is challenging. I'd say that's where I am right now. And yeah, it's challenging. Learning, opening your eyes, each time to something small that you're like, oh, God, I probably really shouldn't be doing that. Or, oh, I shouldn't be thinking that way. Or, oh, this is why I keep repeating these negative cycles. All these things that really start, hitting you in the face. It's a challenging period, but it's also meaningful. And it starts giving you hints of purpose. And that's kind of exciting. So, I have been wanting to get out of the restaurant business for quite a long time. I've been doing it for over 20 years. And I go get in my car and go to work, and I work on the ocean. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's a great place to be if you're going to have to go to work. But I dread it every day because I'm so tired of it. And it's just because I feel like it's not my purpose anymore. Although since I've had my spiritual awakening, I put more back into my experience there at work and to other people's experience of me, to where it has some meaning again, but it's not my purpose anymore. I've worn out my welcome in the restaurant industry. And so now, one of my main goals is to figure out what else I'm going to do with my life. And spiritual teaching is becoming a recurring theme. So that might be part of what I'm supposed to do. I'm just following the universe and its promptings right now. And the universe has been telling me that I have things to offer and information to offer. And I think, well, doesn't everybody know what I know? But no, they don't. And I don't know everything, and I'm still learning, but there's a lot of you out there that can learn from me and what I've seen and gone through and already actually know inherently from my higher self, and that's channeled from source. So that's why I'm sharing here today. One of the ways you can recode yourself, or you can work on recoding yourself, is by starting a daily spiritual practice. Whether it's positive mantras in the morning, or meditation, or yoga, or a combination of all three, spending time in nature, practicing really getting in touch with your higher self and your intuition, and recoding those negative thoughts, retraining your brain to not say no or make excuses or procrastinate all the time, committing yourself to being more spiritual, and setting aside time for spirituality every day. All those things will work in conjunction to help those bad habits fall away and to help give you strength when you're posed with coming back up against, engaging in a bad habit, or having to meet with a toxic friend, or any of the other things I talked about. Having that daily spiritual practice will give you a protection and a strength, and help you see your purpose. So that's my advice for those of you who are in the stage number 3, recoding yourself. And then after you recode yourself and you're successful, you become extraordinary, is what that says. And these are little suns that I drew right here. Yeah, this is the crudest little chart. I know. I tried. I made traces around circles for you guys. My circles would have been horrible. So I'm trying to see if I can get you these. Okay. So becoming extraordinary is basically when you take your recoded self and you put yourself out there and you start making a difference in other people's lives. Not that you can't make a difference in other people's lives before then, because you definitely can. Every step of the way, you can make a difference in other people's lives. I know as empaths, that's what we do. So you are already making a difference in other people's lives. But what I mean is creating a real pattern for change. And, okay, Fifi, come on, get down, baby. There you go. Creating a real pattern for change and making a true impact on people, on society. Living your truth and embodying your higher self. This is when you don't have to struggle back and forth with your ego so much to let your higher self come through, and your intuition prevails and knows, like, strongly that it doesn't have to compete with your mind, because its senses are just as strong or stronger and will direct you in the right direction, because the mind sometimes sabotages us, right? We want to have proof, we want to have logic, we want to have structure, but there's so much in this universe that is not provable to us because our brains can't even handle it. I mean, everything is energy. All of this stuff we don't understand about the universe is so beautiful and amazing, and every time I learn a new piece of it, I'm just like, wow, so awesome. So that's what you can do when you become in the becoming extraordinary stage. That's where you are, that's where you sit. And though I feel like a lot of our gurus that we watch, Alan Watts and Abraham Hicks and Sadhguru and Louise Hayes and Eckhart Tolle, and those people, they're becoming extraordinary. I mean, they're at the tippy top, right? I can only strive to try and get to be a piece of that. But how awesome. How awesome to be able to influence so many people's lives in such a positive way, and to give hope, and to teach people how to manipulate energy and succeed in this world. I mean, that would be amazing. And I guess that's probably one of my goals, is to be right up there and be extraordinary. But for right now, guys, I'm in the trenches with you, and we're just fighting the good fight, you know. And all of you empaths out there, my heart and love goes out to you, all special people. And you know, I know it feels like a curse sometimes, but it's truly a blessing. And if you can take your empathy and turn it into acts of compassion that are tangible, how good will you feel about yourself? My empathy was a curse to me because I couldn't handle it for the longest time. Before my awakening, I could not handle how much feeling I had for everything and everybody else, and I would really just go within constantly and withdraw from people, even though I have a very social nature. But after my awakening, I learned about the power of empaths and why, you know, we've just been given the special gift to be able to feel other people's feelings and experience what they're experiencing. When you can harness that, and when you can know when you're around somebody that those are not your own emotions, and you can just help them through it and wash those emotions just straight through you, you just transmute them instead of feeling them as your own feelings, that's very powerful. And you know, I wish I knew that for the beginning of my life. My life would have been so much easier, but it wasn't meant to be, right? Your awakening happening when your awakening is supposed to happen and not before. So anyways, guys, this is a long video, but you know, haven't been making videos for quite some time. I've definitely been inspired to do this, and I've been wanting to put some support out there for my empath community, because you know, you guys are strong, but you need support. So in light and love, let's hang in there, guys. Let's support each other, and you know, really go within and take care of yourself right now and analyze what you really want from this life. Okay? Bye for now.